Hey, ladies and gentlemen, listen, we're looking to go beyond measures. Hey, we're looking to go beyond limits. Hey, we're looking to make history. Hey, we're looking to pull an ultra-rare optic card that's more rare compared to other sports cards that's been pulled around the world and shit like that every day and hit it big on eBay. Yeah! Hey, ladies and gentlemen, real talk, we ain't nobody playing with y'all out of the thing. Hey, we're looking to pull an ultra-rare number card number real low and get a great player that get an uber rare card that makes waves around the internet and cars get noticed and we go viral on YouTube. So without further ado, let's crack open these two and hit it big, boo. Yeah, y'all know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. Real talk, dude. Real talk, dude.
And get a tooth.
Jacob and Paul tell. Y'all hear my wife picking on my front tooth?
Here's the Triple B&JOEB, and the Triple B, baby, Triple B&JOEB, rock, cock, and Joe Rally. Triple B&JOEB, and the Triple B, baby, Triple B&JOEB, rock, cock, and Joe Rally. We're coming in, only seeking the truth about JFK. Tell him, Joe, here we go.
And here we go.
That is right, Joseph. What is up, everybody? It's the Triple B and Joe B here with you for another exciting edition of the Lone Gunman Podcast. Tonight, we will be talking about the Ed Hoffman story. Speak no evil, and I guess hear no evil, too. As for those of you who don't know, Ed Hoffman was a deaf mute. That means someone who could not hear or speak, which makes for an awful witness. But I guess it's better than somebody who cannot see. That would make for an even worse witness.
That would be, you were right, sir.
But before we get into it, Joe, welcome the people in, if you will, please, sir.
Sure. So I know Mr. Jack Taylor was first to comment when you put it up and put a little gold medal emoji. Although I can't see it in Restream. Congratulations on being first. I actually put a silver medal up because I was second. And I think Tiny and a couple people were after. I know Sally is here. All right, all. How are you, Miss Sally? And Sally, you deactivated your X account, so now I can't message with you and hear your pretty voice.
Or maybe she just blocked your creepy ass.
Mr. Tony Holman, good evening, everyone. Scott Edwards, hello, sir. Speak No Evil also connects to the monkey from last week. Southwest already said, here we go. Jack Taylor, yep, trophy. I did award him with that. Trey is driving. He is on his way to Shreveport, 1 hour away from the Gay 90s Club in Shreveport.
Oh, boy.
I'm sure you will make that your first stop, sir. If only it was open. Tiny Dancer. Yeah, hello, ma'am. Hope you're feeling better. Hope you are recovering well. Claude and Aunt Udine, say hi. Howdy, boys. Paula Jane, how are you? Mr. James Smith, I can't hear a thing. Yeah. Hopefully that's a joke and not.
Yeah, hopefully that's not true.
Yeah, and our sound is working. Hi from Scotland, DW.
I don't think she's lying, Joe, because I see there's a lot of red flags over here on the comments section saying they can't hear nothing.
I think we would have heard. If you can't hear us, stop the joking emojis and let us know.
Yeah.
But
seriously, can you hear us? Well, if they can't hear us, Joe, then
this would be all for nothing. But thank you, DW, for staying up late with us from Scotland.
We're going to do the entire show in American Sign Language.
How many shots did you hear? And hi, Mr. Paul Lanici. I was kidding. Yeah, I that's what I thought. So I hear you. All right. So, Mr. Ed Hoffman. Interesting witness. And I think we're going to flesh it out today and decide how credible he is or isn't, right?
Yeah, we're gonna flesh him out. I had always heard bits and pieces about this guy because unfortunately he wasn't interviewed by the Warren Commission, Jim Garrison, or the HSCA for that matter.
Or the DPD.
Or the DPD, or the Dallas Sheriff's Office. But way back in 2014, when I went to the very first Cuckoo Conference where Judy Baker was at, I came across these two guys, Joe. And their names are Casey Quinlan and Brian Edwards.
Yes.
And they wrote a book entitled Beyond the Fence Line, the eyewitness account of Ed Hoffman and the murder of President Kennedy. Okay. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, Brian Edwards is a former police officer turned JFK researcher. And Casey Quinlan is just I believe he's a teacher, a history teacher, and a very smart guy, very jovial fella, very likable. I enjoyed talking to these guys at the conference.
Yeah.
Although for some reason I didn't buy a copy of their book when I was there. I should have done that. I think Doug did, actually. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah. And I think they are involved or going to be speaking at the conference this year in Dallas, not Lancer Conference.
Yeah. Now, the reason they wrote this book is because they decided to spend some time with this story. Okay. And Ed Hoffman didn't pass away until the year 2010. Okay. And so he was alive for them to be able to, I was going to say talk to, but
interact with,
yeah, with the help of his son or daughter, or something like that. One of his family members, I think, was interpreting for them.
I believe it was the daughter.
Yeah. So this is a tough story because Ed didn't come forward right away. And when he did, they really kind of didn't know what to do with him because of his condition. And given where he was that day, and I'll show you here in a minute, they found his story hard to believe. Now, in terms of exactly where Ed Hoffman was standing, in comparison to what he was seeing from his vantage point. Okay, the little black dot at the bottom left corner, with an arrow pointing to it that says Ed Hoffman, that is where he was standing. He had pulled over to the side of the freeway. Okay. The Stemmons Freeway. And if you follow the broken line on the right-hand side, backwards, up, okay, up. All right, you can see where the motorcade route was. You can see the sixth floor, you can see the Texas School Book Depository up there on the corner. And you can see where the car would have turned on Elm Street, and the broken dotted line is moving down Elm Street past the grassy knoll area, right? And he has a pretty good view of the rear side of the picket fence there that runs all the way atop the grassy knoll.
Right. And just to say, the motorcade is moving from the top of the picture you were showing, the dotted lines, down, curving
Yes.
down through the bottom, and the grassy knoll is that corner that is kind of like the top right and the top right side of the picture below.
Yeah, the big grassy area right beside the dotted line.
Yeah, in the parking lot. Yeah.
And you can kind of see the fence line and then the parking lot behind it, right?
Yep.
Now, of course, this is a perspective-based photograph. You have to imagine, okay, a very tiny Ed Hoffman on this side of the freeway. Now, he was on this side of the freeway because he figured that the president was going to come down the dotted line area, okay, and go under the Stemmons Freeway, and that he would be able to look down into the president's car and see them below him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's why he was not closer on the other side of the Stemmons Freeway. Okay, so that's the perspective. But you see how small and tiny these cars are that are on the Stemmons Freeway. Imagine how small and tiny of a person would be if they are standing outside one of these vehicles at that location. Okay, he's looking very far distance. Okay, to put it into more perspective, Joe, here we have the aerial view. Okay, top right corner, you have the school book depository. Directly to the left of the school book depository, it's highlighted, is where Lee Bowers was in the tower in the terminal switching yard there. Okay, and there is a red line pointing straight down from Lee Bowers' Tower of Power straight to the rear of the grassy knoll picket fence line. Okay, now once you get to the grassy knoll fence line, you'll see another arrow coming in from the left. And if you follow that red line all the way to the left, that is where Ed Hoffman was located. So he's basically looking over two gigantic freeways with a great distance in between them,
Right.
to see behind the picket fence.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, if you follow the intersection there behind the grassy knoll picket fence, as you can see it, and instead of going left to find Ed Hoffman, now we're going to go south, directly south from there. And the highlighted area right there on the railroad tracks, okay, that is an area where SM or Sam Holland was located, a railroad man. And that is going to be his perspective from there. And in this discussion, we're going to hear what Ed Hoffman saw. We're going to hear what Lee Bowers saw, and we're going to hear what SM Holland or Sam Holland and a bunch of these other railroad workers who were on top of the triple overpass, what they saw. Because basically, we're talking about eyewitnesses here. So you would want to compare what these people saw with each other, because they all can't be looking at the same scene and see different things, because that's not good for any of them. Any one of them could be true. Any two of them, if they're different, could be lying or mistaken. But significantly different scenes of the exact same area is, of course, a problem, especially one that really didn't come out until all the other eyewitness testimony came out.
Right.
Now, the reason that our boy Ed Hoffman was there that day, Ed Hoffman worked at Texas Instruments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he took a mid-morning break, and he had a bad toothache, Joe.
He did. He was chewing some ice, and I believe his tooth broke, according to him.
Cracked the goddamn molar, which is painful. So he took off from work and headed downtown to the dentist on the east side of town. As he was crossing through downtown, he noticed that a lot of people were gathering, and then he remembered, oh shit, that's right, today's the day that President Kennedy's coming to Dallas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he figured that he would park his car along the side of the freeway where he could be able to catch a glimpse down into the president's car and actually see them and wave to them. You know, welcome to Dallas, Mr. President, right? Now, I believe, Joe, the first time Ed Hoffman's story came out to the people, if you will, was in Jim Marr's Crossfire in the late 80s. And then after that, what?
67, I believe, was when he claimed
Related to the JFK research community by an author.
Okay. Got
it. You know, kind of put out there by somebody. The first time was Jim Marrs, who wrote about it in 1989. And shortly after that, Joe, he was on The Men Who Killed Kennedy, which I happen to have a small clip from that we are going to peruse right about now.
Yep. And The Men Who Killed Kennedy, like I've mentioned before, was what got me personally into the Kennedy assassination. And when I heard his story here, I found him extremely credible, just giving my initial first-time observations.
Yeah. So I believe it always helps if you see the person in person, if not in person, at least on video.
I was about to say hear the person, but maybe hear the translation of the person.
Yes. Enjoy reading the subtitles or listening to another person say what he said. Here we go. It's 2 minutes, folks, or 2 or 3 minutes. Here we go. Be right back. And just a quick aside, folks. Ed Hoffman is a straight up pimp driving a Jaguar in the late 80s in Dallas. I don't know what kind of business this guy was in by then.
Well,
I mean, Texas Instruments.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
Did you not have that calculator?
Everybody had that calculator.
That scientific calculator. I mean, even I'm not young enough to not remember that.
Yeah, but that's not all they made. So
of course.
Ed Hoffman did very well for himself. I mean, dude's pimping a Jaguar in the late 80s. Yeah. I just had to point that out, by the way.
Yeah, and I think he was born in, I think it was 37. So 47, 57. He would have been in his mid-20s, mid to young 20s, to put it into context at this time. Because we only see him when he's older, of course.
Yeah, not at this time. At this time, he's in his 50s. But when the JFK thing happened, yes, he was in his mid-20s. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Please. Love.
All right. Back to Pim and Ed Hoffman and his Jaguar. I just need to point this out that I don't think he came forward with this story for the money because he didn't need it. Dude was already balling. Here we go.
However, his story is confirmed by another eyewitness, Ed Hoffman, a deaf mute who is interviewed here for the first time.
I'd gotten off work early because I had a dentist's appointment. I was traveling down the freeway here, and I remembered that President Kennedy was coming to visit Dallas. I parked my car here. I realized at this spot that I would be able to see Kennedy pass close by. I stood here and waited, and I was looking towards where he would be coming from. I suddenly saw two men who looked suspicious directly over there in the car park.
25 years ago, these trees did not obscure the view. From his position at the side of the freeway, Ed Hoffman could clearly see the car park area behind the grassy knoll.
I saw a man standing here, wearing a black hat and a blue jacket. I saw a puff of smoke, and I thought it was a cigarette, but it wasn't. He had a gun, and he walked towards the railroad. He tossed the gun to the second man. Then he turned and straightened his jacket, adjusted his hat, and walked casually away. The man with the striped shirt, the railroad shirt, walked over to the electrical box with the gun. He took the gun apart. He put it in a toolbox. He then walked slowly away in the direction of the railroad track. When the motorcade passed by below me here, I realized that Kennedy had been shot. I was horrified. I saw a policeman standing on the railroad bridge, and I tried to get his attention, but he didn't see me. So I got in my car and drove to the area where I had seen the two men. But there were so many people there, and I couldn't find them. I went to the FBI to tell them what I had seen. They didn't want me to say anything. They offered me money to keep quiet. They didn't understand that it was more important for me to tell them what I'd seen. It was hard for me to communicate with them. I do feel that the two men I saw were working together, and that the one with the gun behind the fence was the man who shot President Kennedy.
Look at the situation. The FBI started in the investigation right away, and they had all these reports, over 50 reports from eyewitnesses saying at least one of the shots came from that area. And here, all of a sudden, they've got a photograph that shows the precision.
Let me get rid of old Gary Mack there.
Yeah. It goes off into the badge man.
Yes, it goes off into the ether sphere. Now, one thing that should be acknowledged and noted here, folks, is, and fortunately, inshallah, praise God, I have no sensory inabilities. They're all there, folks, on Big Bad Bob.
Allegedly.
But I have heard, Joe, that when you lose, one of your body's capacities to get input or provide output, if you will, that your other senses become stronger.
Right.
So if you lose your sense of hearing, right, then your eyesight becomes better. If you lose your eyesight, your sense of hearing becomes better.
Yes, I think that's pretty proven. Yes,
because you are relying on that sensory perception for input into your brain. So your brain understands that maybe one road is closed and it needs to throw all of its focus on the other road. You know what I'm saying?
I do. 100%.
And with Ed, it's doubled. So he can't hear and he can't speak. Okay. And our brain, as we are interpreting things and thinking, it sends signals to our mouth to speak very quickly. It's almost an impulsory thing to be able to speak. Your brain does a lot of work to help you speak. It doesn't really do a lot to help you hear. That's going in, a different part of the brain. And eyesight is, again, attached directly to the brain, and it's very, there's a whole lot going on, is what I'm trying to say, when you're using your senses. And it's entirely possible that what would be almost impossible for the average person, given where he was in the distance, to not be able to see minor details. Like, he could see a puff of smoke. He could see the guy was wearing a blue jacket and a black hat, and that he straightened his suit after he turned around. I mean, these are very subtle details when you're talking about that far of a distance to be able to see. The fact that he passed a rifle off to somebody else, the fact that they broke it down and put it into a toolbox and then walked away. And another thing he said, Joe, was that he tried to get to the parking lot behind the grassy knoll, or he did. And by the time he got there, these people were gone. Well, no shit. But for him to be able to get from where he was back to Dealey Plaza, back behind the fence, I think at that point, there would have been a clog in the vein there of trying to get to that area.
Yeah, you'd have to at least get off the first exit, make a couple U-turns, side streets, right?
Yeah,
Something like
and
that.
come around the horn back to Elm Street,
Right.
you know. But very interesting stuff there.
Yeah. And one thing, of course, he says he went to the FBI and they
Well,
watched.
hang on, Joe. He didn't go
Okay.
straight to the FBI. Okay. He went home. Well, he stopped at a body shop first to talk to a friend who was also deaf. Okay. So apparently they had a sign language exchange.
I was about to say to be a fly on the wall, but I guess that wouldn't really apply here.
And he was telling his friend excitedly what he had seen. And the other guys around the body shop are looking at these two guys and like, what the fuck is going on? Like something, you know, like, why are you so animated? You know, like, which they first found amusing. They quickly changed their tune when it was explained to them what Ed was saying. And someone turned on a radio and they heard about the Kennedy shooting. After leaving the body shop, Ed then visited his family's floral shop to see his father, Mr. Frederick Hoffman. And on meeting with his dad, Ed signed to him, "I saw them shoot JFK. I saw who did it." Which is kind of interesting. But his dad was more worried about why his son wasn't at work, right? He didn't care that he'd seen him, that he'd seen JFK be shot. He was, why aren't you at work? That fucking tooth. He then sternly told his son to get his ass to the dentist and handle his tooth. So a frustrated Ed got in his car and drove back to Dallas to the dentist. So,
Yeah. But wasn't his uncle, I guess his father's brother, a policeman as well? A policeman, I mean, not as well.
yes,
His
his
dad
uncle,
wasn't.
yes.
Yeah, and that's, I think, going to play into this.
Yep, we'll get there. Now, once he got to the dentist's office,
Oh, thank you, DW, who became a spook level member
nice.
during the show, and you will have a lot of shows to go back and watch. Some good stuff on there.
Yep.
So, thank you, sir.
And so he goes to the dentist, a guy by the name of Dr. Zawicki. Dr. Zawicki. And he's trying to tell the people there what happened as he's drooling. And they pound his mouth with Novocaine and laughing gas. And they just think he's, I don't know. Nobody there spoke sign language, so he could not properly convey what was going on. They probably thought, what's wrong with this mother? You know,
to the dentist's office.
well, he supposedly wrote them a note. And he told the dentist on a piece of paper, "Hey, I saw them shoot JFK."
I see.
Now after this happens, of course, he's driving back and he hears on the radio that the president has indeed died from his injuries. So he goes back to Daddy's flower shop and appealed to him to call his uncle Robert, who was a detective in the Dallas Police Department. So Ed could tell him his story. But by the time he got there, his father also knew the president was dead, but remained adamant on not informing the police, his brother, or anybody else about Ed seeing the assassination. Instead, telling his son to go home and let the police do their damn job.
Don't get involved.
Do not get involved. Frustration mounting, Ed then drove home and upon arriving found his wife, Rosie, watching TV reports of the assassination. Now, Ed also had, like I said, he had a wife, named Rosie, and a daughter. So he's a family man. You know, he's not a crazy person. Doesn't seem like the kind of person who would just make shit up like this, right? And when he saw this suspected assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, on the television, he signed to Rosie, "That's not him. That's not the man I saw." Now, so I'm not sure exactly what day this is, Joe, but he would have seen Oswald on the television. I'm guessing it might have been the 22nd. Probably was 23rd. But anyway, this was Ed's and Rosie's wedding anniversary. It was their 7th one that day.
On the 22nd?
Yes, I guess. It was either the 22nd or whenever he saw him on TV that weekend. That's their wedding anniversary day.
That's ironic.
Isn't it? So Rosie got in the car with him and they drove back to where he was standing a few days earlier, or a few hours earlier. So yeah, same day. So their anniversary is the 22nd.
Okay.
So she drives back to where he was standing so that he could tell her or show her the view and what he saw. And he was able to look down from the freeway and see the fatally wounded president. Knowing her husband, Rosie had no doubt that he was telling the truth. But it wasn't until 6 days later at his grandparents' house for Thanksgiving dinner that his dad finally agreed to let Ed tell his Uncle Robert what he knew. So with Robert being the detective in the Dallas Police Department, Ed's meeting with him would be the first chance to download his knowledge to someone in any kind of authority to do something about it. But before allowing his son to speak with Robert, Ed's father spent a few minutes talking with his brother, during which Ed assumed his father was relaying details of what he's seen. More likely, his father was expressing concerns to Robert about Ed's safety and was enlisting his aid in the task of protecting his son. Now, the reason this is important is because at this point, folks, you got to understand that Oswald is the shooter by all accounts coming out of the Dallas Police Department. And by this point, Oswald had been shot and silenced. And what Ed is saying that he saw does not match the official story at all. Oswald couldn't have shot John F. Kennedy from behind the grassy knoll because he was supposed to be in the Texas School Book Depository at the time, right? So you have to understand what Ed's family is thinking at this point. They're thinking either this motherfucker's crazy or he saw something that he shouldn't see and he's going to be in danger if he comes out with this story, because the powers that be at that point don't have much of an option. You know, if a well-respected, upstanding member of the community with a disability comes forward and says what he says he saw, it could be a problem. It could throw a giant wrench in everything. And we know what happened to people, you know, who did this. They were labeled kooks. They were dismissed as crazies, unreliable people. And, you know, at this time, you know, Ed's a professional working for a big company, obviously doing well for himself despite his disabilities. And, you know, it was probably frowned upon, you know, for him to come forward at this time with the information that he had that totally disrupted the official story, if you will. But, you know, he talked to his uncle and he said, "Your father's right. You should keep quiet about this and you might be in danger." So Ed didn't like that, knowing the real killers got away. And then his uncle said, "You keep quiet. You talk, you get shot." So basically, his uncle was threatening him, look, shut up or you're going to get shot. It's not worth it. Just keep it to yourself and move on with your life. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, his uncle must have had some great foresight because obviously witnesses weren't getting killed that weekend yet, but
Right.
kind of knew how things worked. Right.
Yeah. So, the Warren Commission came and went. And it wasn't until early summer of 67, Joe, with help from his boss at Texas Instruments, Ed Hoffman finally got an appointment with the FBI special agent, a man by the name of Special Agent Will Griffin, on June 28, 67, at the Bureau field office in Dallas. Setting up the appointment, it was made clear to Griffin that Ed was a deaf mute. Yet when he arrived at the field office to meet the FBI agent, they didn't have a sign language interpreter present. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course, today when there's any press conference, you have some scafuza in the corner doing the
So
sign language.
they're reduced to passing notes at this point to each other.
Okay.
Right. So that's what they did. He also said that the agent requested no clarification on what he was saying, as in the agent didn't ask him any questions about his story. He basically just sat back and let Ed write out his statement and give it to them. And the FBI guy was like, he read it and he was like, okay, thank you. Thanks for coming in, bud. Didn't ask him any questions. None of that. FBI reports of the interview later released under the Freedom of Information Act, per Quinlan and Edwards, who wrote the book, quote, were vague and distorted, perhaps because of poor communication or a deliberate attempt to discredit Ed's account. Agent Griffin's report is full of transcription errors, and the only correct information on the report was Hoffman's address, the location of where he was standing on Stemmons Freeway, his seeing the two men behind the fence, and that he was coming forward with his information against his father's advice. So that's basically all the FBI report said. There was no report of Ed seeing a rifle, no report of the puff of smoke, no report of the second man behind the fence breaking down the rifle. Now, whether or not Ed didn't tell them this, or he did, and of course they left it out because it doesn't go with the official story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Throws into question Ed Hoffman's entire narrative of this. Because maybe he did see something back then that nagged at him for a couple years until he got to talk to the FBI. But again, the entire story didn't come out until he was interviewed for Jim Marr's book Crossfire. And then this, as you just saw in The Men Who Killed Kennedy, they said this is the first time witness Ed Hoffman has been interviewed concerning this. So we're talking almost 30 years later. I'm sorry, 20 years later at this time. Sorry. So did he really, or did his story grow with time is what I'm trying to say, as most do. I don't know. I don't know what the truth is here.
Right. Right.
According to Quinlan and Edwards, once Ed felt that he communicated everything, Griffin collected Hoffman's notes and drawings. Then, using gestures, he communicated back to Ed that he understood by him and reported by Quinlan and Edwards as follows. Quote, while raising an index finger. Joe, raise your index finger. He points to Ed and brings an index finger up to his lips as if to say, shh, quiet. Mimes removing a wallet from his back pocket. Mimes giving Ed something small with one hand. Holds up one hand, palm facing Ed with 5 fingers extended, indicating the number 5. Griffin closes his hand into a fist twice, indicating 2 zeros.
500.
We'll give you $500 to shut up. So now Ed Hoffman is saying that the FBI tried to bribe him with $500 to keep his mouth shut. Yes, Timothy, you are exactly correct.
Yep. Which is, for me,
Total horseshit.
Hard to believe.
It's a hard sell, right?
It's a hard sell.
Especially in 1967, after all this is said and done and buried, the FBI is going to offer you $500 to keep quiet. I mean, we've heard a lot of things about the FBI over the years, but offering potential eyewitnesses money to shut up is not one of them.
No. And especially a deaf mute witness, right? You would just say, I don't know if you'd say shut the F up because you couldn't talk, but something along those lines.
Yeah. But, it was made clear by that meeting with the FBI that Ed should just keep quiet. He got up and left without the money, of course. And, his life went on.
And is this the one in 1967?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, they would also interview him again in 1977.
Right. HSCA.
Yes. At one point, he even took a point of writing President Kennedy's brother, Senator Edward Kennedy, in an attempt to share what he knew. Senator Edward Kennedy responded that speculation about what really happened to his brothers was painful for the family, and that if there was additional evidence to consider, it would be the responsibility of the proper legal authorities to do so. In 1979, after expecting for months to be called as a witness to testify before the House Select Committee, but never being called, he wrote the committee to tell them what he knew. Of course, by 1979, Joe, the committee's done.
Yep.
Dunsky.
Yep. They're done in January, and they were probably writing their report well before that.
Yeah. Now, he did have another interview in 77 with the FBI. It was not with the HSCA, as we incorrectly stated a minute ago.
Okay.
It was not for the HSCA. It was done by the FBI. Again, he went down and tried to tell them what he knew again, thinking that they would turn his story over to the House Select Committee, but they never did. They never called him. Yada, yada, yada. So that, in effect, is the Ed Hoffman story and where it gets us. Now, very importantly, we should compare and contrast Ed Hoffman's story with that of some of the other witnesses scattered around Dealey Plaza that day. Did they see the same thing that Ed Hoffman saw? There was Lee Bowers in the Tower of Power back there, who was much, much closer than Ed Hoffman to viewing the rear side of the picket fence of the grassy knoll.
Much in the perfect position.
Yeah.
I have been there.
Now we do have.
You cannot be in a more perfect position than Lee Bowers was.
Right. And we also have the testimony of some of the guys who were on the triple overpass. Now, granted, they don't have the exclusive vantage point of seeing what's behind the fence, right? But they're pretty damn close to the fence. It's a walk down and then around the corner, and they're right there, which some of them say they did do.
Yeah.
So now let's hear from some of the other people and try to figure out if these stories match what Ed Hoffman has been saying for all these years. Joe.
Yeah, let's do it. And let's start as we like to do with same day testimony.
Yes.
And there is no, of course, same day testimony for Mr. Hoffman, but for Lee Bowers, there is. Work at the North Tower Union Terminal Company, blah, 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 Monday through Friday. Tower, where I work is west and a little north of the TSBD. I was on duty today at about 11:55 a.m. and I saw a dirty 59 Oldsmobile station wagon come down to the street. The street dead ends into the railroad yard. This car had an out-of-state license plates with white background and black numbers, no letters. It also had a Goldwater for 64 sticker in the rear window, which we've heard before. This car just drove around and left the area, and he talks about a couple other cars. Skip past that. This car also had a Goldwater for 64 sticker. This car was driven by a white male, 25 to 35 years old, with long typo, same type license plates as the 59 Oldsmobile. He left this area about 12:25 p.m., which would be about 5 minutes before JFK was shot. About 8 or 10 minutes after he left, I heard at least 3 shots, very close together. Just after the shots, the area became crowded with people coming from Elm Street and the slope just north of Elm.
So, same day, affidavit, Lee Bowers doesn't mention anything about seeing anybody or any activity on the grassy knoll or behind the fence line, correct?
Correct.
He's talking about cars in the parking lot, basically, at this point.
Yes, sir.
Suspicious cars in the parking lot.
Right, because he had obviously been working in that tower for years, and he knew, like you would, knew the cars. You'd be like, this car goes by, he goes, oh, that's Kafuza Martin, right?
Yeah.
Like you would be somewhat familiar if there was your ears would perk up, or if there was like a bunch of cars coming in that you had never seen before, right? So that's kind of what he's talking about here.
Right, but again, no mention of anything going on behind the grassy knoll fence line at this point.
Right.
Continue.
Yes, so let's go to his Warren Commission testimony. It was taken April 2nd, 64, in Dallas by Mr. Joseph Ball. Close to noon, did you make any observation of the area around between your tower and Elm Street? Yes, because of the fact that the area had been covered by police for some 2 hours. Since approximately 10 o'clock in the morning, traffic had been cut off into the area so that anyone moving around could actually be observed. Since I had worked there for a number of years, I was familiar with most of the people who came in and out of the area. Did you notice any other cars? Yes, there were some cars coming in from time to time from around noon until the time of the shooting. And it is Bauer's testimony, considering where he was, is like 3 pages long. It's pretty short. So, Mr. Ball, now, were there any people standing on the high ground between your tower and where Elm Street goes down under the underpass towards the mouth of the underpass? Directly in line towards the mouth of the underpass, there were 2 men. One man, middle-aged or slightly older, fairly heavy-set, in a white shirt, fairly dark trousers. Another younger man, about mid-20s, either in a plaid shirt or plaid coat or jacket. Were they standing together or?
Hold on, Joe. Let me stop you right there real quick.
Sure.
Real quick. Now, what Ed Hoffman said about the other man that he handed the rifle to was that he was a railroad worker. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't you think that Lee Bowers would know the uniform of a railroad worker?
I would think so. Yes, I think
given his position,
without question, yes,
right. So
he would know the different uniforms of all the people working around that area.
Right. So obviously, the 2 people that he saw were not, either one was not a railroad worker.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you.
Yes.
Were they standing together or standing separately? They were standing within 15 or 10 or 15 feet of each other and gave no appearance of being together as far as I knew. In what direction were they facing? They were facing and looking up towards Maine and Houston and following the caravan as it came down. Did you see anyone standing on the triple underpass? On the triple underpass, there were 2 policemen, one facing each direction, both east and west. There was 1 railroad employee, a signal man, there with the Union Terminal Company, and 2 welders that worked for the Fort Worth welding firm. See, Rob, to your point, he could tell
Yes.
exactly who's with the welding firm, who's with the Union Terminal Company, right? And there was also a laborer's assistant furnished by the railroad by these welders.
Yeah. I
You
mean, he's
saw
very
the
specific when it comes to these people, right? But not the 2 people that are either behind the fence line or at the top of the grassy knoll there where he can see. And I don't trust Ed Hoffman's assessment of the other guy being a railroad employee. I don't know why he would have said that, unless you know these railroad work, or I think of a conductor and I think of the pinstripe shirts that they wear, and the pinstripe hats. But I don't know if all railroad employees wear this, goofy ass uniform.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Joe?
Yeah, and I do, and also when you think about these type of workers, how well do they know each other? I mean, kind of manage a warehouse in a sense, right? Like, uh, you know all your employees, what they look like, what they're wearing.
Yeah, I mean, he was, like I said, he's very specific. He even knew who the welders were, who the assistants were, who the switchmen were, who the railroad employees were.
Right.
He was very, very specific. So I'm not sure, Joe. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's continue here, and we'll see if we can get any more context out of
Okay.
it. Uh, duh, duh, duh. Mr. Ball, you saw those before the president came by. You saw those people. Yes, they were there before and after. Did you see any other people up on this high ground? And I believe he's referring to the knoll, right, Mr. Ball? Bowers, there was 1 or 2 people in the area, not in the same vicinity. One of them was a parking lot attendant that operates a parking lot there. 1 or 2.
Now, real quick. So this parking lot, I believe somebody asked about the parking lot. Yeah, Timothy says, I always heard the parking lot was only available to railroad workers and or cops. Well, that's true. The Dallas Sheriff's Office rented this lot. So either employees could park there or official, I guess, sheriff department vehicles could park there.
Municipal type of thing.
Right.
Maybe.
Because, the Dallas Sheriff's Office was, in Dealey Plaza over on the other side off of Houston and Maine. And they needed extra parking, if you will, in case their parking garage was full and the street was full. This is kind of overflow parking, I guess. But yes, they did rent that area from the railroad yard. Yes, the Dallas Sheriff's Office, which is interesting.
Yep, it is. And I actually just found a picture of Lee Bowers' tower that I'm going to email myself really quickly. But before I continue.
And I'm going to throw up a picture of what typical railroad workers look like at this time. The dingy overhauls, and when we get to like SM Holland, this is the type of shit he was wearing. The overalls, the floppy hats, dirty look appearance, boots, hats, maybe not. I don't know. Now I understand this is not, an official uniform, if you will, but this is what guys working in the rail yard at the time would have been wearing. Dingy overalls. It's a dirty job, and You know,
Right.
so it would have been something like this. So this is how Lee Bowers could have, told these guys apart from other people.
Right. 100%. And let me see. Before we get into some of their statements, the railroad employee statements, let me see if I could share this without incident.
You got it, Tim. Yes, Sally. Maybe he did assume, but you know what happens when you assume, ma'am? You make an ass out of you and me.
That is true.
But again, with the Lee Bowers description, basically of a guy in dark trousers and a white shirt, or a guy wearing a plaid jacket. I mean, that's pretty damn vague. Not uniform-esque, really.
Yep.
And then not Bowers, but Hoffman said that he saw that the other man, who was not the railroad worker, the shooter, if you will, was wearing a black hat and a dark blue suit jacket. Now, he didn't mention the color of the shirt. Maybe he forgot to say the guy was wearing a white shirt. Maybe Bowers forgot to say the guy was wearing a dark blue suit jacket and a hat, but he could see that he had a white shirt on. I don't know where the truth lies there, but we'll get there, I promise.
Yeah. So just finishing up on Mr. Ball's statement. Let me just try to figure out where I was here. Did you see anyone standing on the triple underpass? On the triple underpass, there were two policemen, one facing. Then we did this. You saw these before the president came by. Yes, before and after. Did you see any other people on the high ground? Or yes, I did go over this. I'm sorry. When you heard the sound, which way were you looking? Actually, that ends up being irrelevant. Was his motorcycle directed toward any particular people? He came up into this area where there are some trees and where I described the two men in the general vicinity of this. Where were the two men at the time? As far as I know, one of them was, the other I could not say. The darker dressed man was too hard to distinguish from the trees. The one in the white shirt, yes, I think he was, Mr. Bauer says. So this
Very vague.
yes, this is the picture of Lee Bowers' tower that I took when I was in Dealey Plaza. This was in 2023. I was with Mr. Douglas and Mr. Monica Perez Jimenez, daughter of Marita Lorenz, which was a very cool posse to be in Dealey Plaza with for your first time.
Yeah, I've heard they're going to tear it down at some point.
Yeah,
Which sucks.
yeah, but of course the null, this side, right, looks towards the Texas School Book Depository, right. The Texas Book Depository is, I guess, to the east, to the right of this picture. If you're looking at it, it would be on the right side, and if you follow this corner, it's kind of lines up with the corner of the grassy knoll, the picket fence, vaguely. But SM Holland, who we will hear from in a second, same day, 11/22, DPD statement, signed and notarized. I am a signal supervisor for the Union Terminal, and I was inspecting signal and switches and stopped to watch the parade. I was standing on top of the triple underpass, and the president's car was coming down Elm Street, and when they got just about to the arcade, I heard what I thought for a moment was a firecracker, and JFK slumped over, and I looked over toward the arcade, again, the knoll area, and trees, and saw a puff of smoke come from the trees, and I heard 3 more shots fired after the first shot. But that was the only puff of smoke I saw. I immediately ran around to where I could see behind the arcade and did not see anyone running from there. But the puff of smoke I saw definitely came from behind the arcade through the trees. After the first shot, the president slumped over. Miss Kennedy jumped up, tried to get over the back seat. Blah, blah, blah. We know that. After the first shot, the Secret Service man raised up in the seat with a machine gun. Yes, in the follow-up bar. And then everything dropped back down in the seat, and then they immediately sped off. Everything is spinning in my head, and if I remember anything else later, I will come back and tell Bill. Guessing that's Bill Shelley. Not Bill Shelley. Bill Decker.
Yes.
Maybe Shelley.
Yeah,
But
you got to remember, this area is rented by the sheriff's department in Dallas, and these sheriffs, knew these railroad workers. They're good old boys. They would talk to them all the time. He knew who Bill Decker was, obviously, on a first name basis with him.
On a first name basis, yes.
To call him Bill, not Sheriff Decker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that indicates some familiarity there.
For sure. And he said 4 shots and definitely a puff of smoke coming from the tree arcade area, which of course.
Yeah, that does match what Ed Hoffman said.
Right.
But again, Ed Hoffman could have gotten that from this.
Mm-hmm. So I have something from SM Holland here.
Skinny Holland.
If you give me a second.
Yeah, like Timmy said, total badass. Skinny Holland.
Yeah.
Jack said at this time, SM Holland was only 57, but he looks 80.
Yeah, right. So
hey, it's a hard life, boy, of a railroad worker.
That is. Yeah,
that'll age you quick.
That is very true.
There's unfiltered cigarettes at the time.
Yeah, right. All right.
Me and James are on the same wavelength here. Unfiltered Camels. Yes, sir. They'll do it. Excuse me.
All right. I have this all queued up.
Track and signal supervisor for the Union Terminal Railroad. Put in 41 years of railroad service in the signal department.
Did you look?
He just said 41 years, so he's at least like 50 or 60 or something. 60.
Well, if he started when he was 16 working in the railroad, that's believable. He could be 57.
Yeah, and this is 66.
In any particular direction when you heard the shots?
Yes, I looked over to where I thought the shot came from, and I saw a puff of smoke still lingering underneath the trees in front of the wooden fence. The report sounded like it came from behind the wooden fence. And a policeman throwed his motorcycle down in the middle of the street and run up the embankment with his pistol drawn. He was running toward that particular spot. And also another motorcycle policeman right behind him tried to ride up the embankment on his motorcycle, and it turned over about halfway up the embankment. And he got off his motorcycle and left it laying there and run on over to the fence with his gun in his hand.
Where do you think the shots came from?
Well, I know where that third shot came from.
Where did that shot come from?
Behind the picket fence.
Is there any
close to the little plaza?
Is there any doubt in your mind that that shot came from behind the
There's
fence?
no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt whatsoever in my mind in the statement that I made in the sheriff's office immediately after the shooting and the statement that I made to the Warren Commission. And I made it very plain there was no doubt in my mind there was definitely a shot fired from behind that picket fence.
All right.
Now, there is some problems with Sam Holland's story here. Obviously, we have a lot of photos and footage from that day. I have never seen anything of a motorcycle cop driving their motorcycle halfway up the grassy knoll and then ditching it and then running up there. Now, there is a motorcycle that can be seen in photographs on its side down on the road, but not halfway up the grassy knoll.
Right. I think that's probably what he's referring to. It's probably a little mistaken there, but he seems very, very confident of where the third shot or the last shot came from. And again, this is before Garrison, right? This is 66. And unlike Mr. Hoffman, we just showed you SM Holland's day of affidavit to the BBB,
that's what he said.
where he did say the same thing. So,
but it could have been some poor bastard smoking a cigarette behind the grassy knoll who just had a very poor timed exhale.
Could have been. Never know.
Puff of smoke. Could have been Big Bad Bob back there vaping.
Yeah, right. and did you see the vaping of the time Mark Lane hitting his pipe?
That's so pimp, man.
That's the vaping.
Love watching him and Garrison on their pipes.
Yeah. And now we just have pipes. Although it's more effective.
Yes. I believe it ages us less.
Yes. So this back to SM Holland's statement.
Age 57.
Yeah, and definitely saw the puff of smoke come from behind the trees, through the trees. So now let's go to Austin Miller. Again, same day statement. We like to see
a little bit of a younger fella here, Austin Miller.
Yeah, we prefer these same day statements over later statements for whatever reason they say. We prefer.
That's right.
Business address is Texas, blah, 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 blah. Roy. I and Roy Shelton, who works with me, we'll get to his statement next, was standing on the triple, misspelled, underpass bridge with a large group of people watching for the presidential
triple
parade.
nipple.
I saw a convertible automobile turn west on Elm Street off Houston Street. I don't know. It had proceeded about halfway from Houston Street to the underpass when I heard what sounded like a shot. A short second, two more sharp reports. Of course, we always hear this. A shot and then
too close together.
Too close together. This we almost hear from
everybody.
Almost everyone. Right. Which, of course, does not lend to the credibility of a bolt-action rifle, especially the third shot being this perfect shot that someone who sucks at shooting could not shoot. Anyways, I digress. A man in the back seat slumped over, and a woman in a bright colored dress grabbed the man and yelled, I think he's talking Jackie. One shot apparently hit the street past the car. That's an interesting statement. I saw something which I thought was smoke or steam coming from a group of trees north of Elm off of the railroad tracks. I did not see anyone on the tracks or in the trees. A large group of people concentrated, also spelled wrong, concreted, and a motorcycle.
Who was taking these depositions at the sheriff's office? She needs to lay off the sauce.
It's that same lady, Patty.
Well, I'm sure she had a lot of these to do that day. She's probably like, man, fuck this day.
She did.
You know?
Yeah, she
Next.
was over at that point. I did not see. You're so right. I did not see anyone on the tracks or in the trees. A large group of people. Blah blah. I said that a motorcycle officer dropped his motor. It almost looks like mother, and took off on foot to the car. Interesting. So that's Austin Miller. Okay. And now I'm going to, and I'm doing this for a reason. This is an article written by Stuart Gallant,
Eleanor.
who I have no idea. Gallant. Do you know this guy?
I have heard him. He wrote a book called Cover Up.
He did, and he wrote this article, which was the art of misrepresenting evidence, and he specifically goes on the offensive on Posner's
Oh,
claims.
goody.
Yeah, and talks about how Posner tried to discredit the witness testimony of the railroad workers, right? Posner's claim: railroad workers on the overpass could not have seen puffs of smoke from rifle fire on the knoll because modern ammunition is smokeless. It seldom creates even a wisp of smoke. Case closed, page 256. Evidence: Posner's claim is easily disproved by visiting our rifle range. Just watch people shoot. Puffs of smoke will be seen all over the place. Even if a government investigation conceded that modern weapons do in fact emit smoke when fired, HSCA, page 606. Another Posner claim, Edward J. Epstein, in inquest, writes 5 of the witnesses on the overpass said they had also seen smoke rise from the grassy knoll area. Epstein's citation only lists 4 names, 3 of which do not support the claim. Evidence: there are 7 well-documented witnesses who claim to have seen smoke on the knoll. They are S.M. Holland, who we heard from and saw his day of, James Simmons, I'll get to that, Richard Dodd, I'll get to him too, both interviewed by Mark Lane, Walter Winborn, Thomas Murphy, Austin Miller, we just read him, and reporter Ed Johnson, who wrote for his paper the next day, some of us saw little puffs of white smoke that seemed to hit the grassy area in the Esplanade that divides Dallas Midtown streets. So it could have been you and me vaping behind the knoll. I was going to put this at the end, but I figured.
Yeah, well, he didn't include Ed Hoffman in this, so that would be 8 total witnesses who say they saw smoke on the knoll.
Right. He does go on to discredit Hoffman. I'm going to get to that. I believe, on the slide. This is Roy Skelton. Again.
Oh, goddamn Roy Skelton.
He was standing with Austin Miller. We saw the motorcade come around the corridor, and I heard something which I thought was fireworks. How many times we heard that? I saw something hit the pavement at the left rear of the car. Then the car got in the right-hand lane, and I heard 2 more shots. I heard a woman say, "Oh no," or something, and grab a man inside the car. I then heard another shot and saw the bullet hit the pavement. The concrete was knocked to the south, away from the car. Typo, it hit the pavement to the left or middle lane. I then went down to my car radio to see if I could find out what happened. After I came back up, a policeman asked me if I had seen anything and brought me back to the sheriff's office. So that's
a wild story.
Skelton. Yes. Then you have Mr. Frank Riley, who was not interviewed by the DPD, does not have a day of statement, but was interviewed by the Warren Commission by, of course, Mr. Joseph Ball.
The original JOEB.
How many people? Yep. How many people were there on the overpass at the time? Just what I told you. Tell me again. Well, there was Holland and me and Dick Dodd and these 2 fellows out there and the 2 policemen. That's all I remember seeing out there. Did you hear something? Yes. What did you hear? 3 shots. Where did they seem to come from? What direction? It seemed to me like they come out of the trees. The trees, not the TSBD. Come out of the trees. What trees? On the north side of Elm Street, at the corner up there. On the north side of Elm, on what corner? Well, where all those trees are. You've never been down there? Mr. Ball, yeah, I've been down there, but you tell me. I want you to tell me because it has to go on record here and has to be in writing. Well, it was at that park where all the shrubs is up there. Maybe you should have done this in your Texas accent. It's to the north of Elm Street, up the slope. Did you see any pigeons fly? And he, of course, changes. This is why I included this. Changes the
Narrative
right?
of the questioning.
The direct is not going as he planned. So, did you see any pigeons fly? No, I didn't pay no attention to that. So you could see how the Warren Commission attorneys kind of, influence the testimony.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So now we're going to go to James L. Simmons. And so all these railroad workers were interviewed, Rob, on either March 19th, 64, March 18th, or March 20th. Like all of them are, I guess they must have gotten word that all these people saw smoke within the knoll. So the FBI sends everyone to re-interview all the people on top
The
of
Warren Commission sends the FBI back out. Yes.
Yeah. And this is Mr. Simmons said he thought he saw exhaust fumes of smoke near the embankment in front of the Texas School Book Depository building. Simmons then ran down there, advised that it was opinion that the shots came from the direction of the TSBD. So this is what the FBI is doing here. He's on the triple overpass. Of course, the shots came from the direction of the TSBD because it's in between the picket fence and the grassy knoll is in between that and the TSBD. So they're kind of carefully
crafting. Yeah, I like
this.
that.
Yeah, and it is actually pointed out by this author, and it's on the next slide. Another Scafuza, Nolan Potter, no DPD interview either. FBI interview 319 again, like I told you. Union Terminal hostler, helper, whatever that is, standing on the triple underpass, heard 3 shot reports, thought firecrackers, could not tell origin, saw smoke rising above trees. FBI, again, same date. He then saw President Kennedy slump over in his car, drive through the underpass. Porter said he recalls seeing smoke in front of the TSBD building rising above the trees. Again, wording, in front of the TSBD rising above the trees. If Oswald was on the 6th floor firing, guess what? The smoke from his shot would not be rising from the 6th floor window, according to this. So you can see how they're, again, making it seem like it came from the TSBD. Let's see. Actually, let's go to my next YouTube video with another railroad worker. If I can fucking find it. One of these days.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There was a picture. If anybody knows who took it, of alleged the alleged puff of smoke in Dealey Plaza. I was trying to find it to see if I could show you guys, but Googling that is not helping me very much. It's not the Mormon photograph. I do know that.
Yep. All right, let me get this. All right. For some reason, this stupid thing is not coming up on my YouTube account, so I'm emailing it to myself, and I'm going to bring it up in 1 second. Oh, technology, bro. It's a hard thing to figure out. Gotta love it.
The 6th floor museum's not working. Image 6 from Jay Skaggs.
I'm sorry?
Oh, nothing. I'm trying to find the picture with the smoke in it.
Okay. Well, while you do that, let me talk to let's hear from James Simmons, who we just talked about. And he was also on the railroad. He was also a railroad worker. And he was the one who the FBI kind of fudged his testimony to make it seem like the shots came from the direction of the TSPD. But let's hear what he has to say to Mark Lane in 1966. And here we hopefully go.
There was a loud explosion. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but it sounded like a loud firecracker or a gunshot. And it sounded like it came from the left and in front of us, towards the wooden fence. And there was a puff of smoke that came underneath the trees on the embankment.
Where was the puff of smoke, Mr. Simmons, in relation to the wooden fence?
It was right directly in front of the wooden fence.
I show you a picture published by the Warren Commission. It's Commission Exhibit number 2215, which is a view of the Triple Underpass area. I ask you if you'd be good enough to mark with this pen with an X the area where you thought the shots came from and where you saw the smoke.
It was this area here.
I'm trying to figure out.
Well, that'd be the top of the grassy knoll. Elm Street is, of course, marked. Yeah, allow some acreage there for the grassy knoll, and it would have been right on top, near the fence line or behind the fence line. I think that dotted line, Joe, is the fence line. I could be wrong. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's an angle thing, but it's top of the grassy knoll. And real quick, Joe, I found the photo of the alleged puff of smoke. This was obviously shot by somebody like Darnell or Wigman or Couch, who was in the motorcade with a video camera. This is a still after they had gone past the school book depository. Now, I doubt that a puff of smoke would be lingering this low to the ground after the shots, after this long after the shots. I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. I guess it would be a factor of many things, including the wind and, density of the air that day. Who knows? But that circled there in the upper right corner would be the puff of smoke. Now, if you see the second circled image right next to the car that is in this photo, that is the limousine, JFK's limousine. So technically, I guess that could be a puff of smoke, from a shot. Really?
Yeah.
if it's wafting out from the grassy knoll area, behind the fence line.
Mm-hmm. Especially if there was more than one shot from there. Yeah, it definitely looks not like leaves.
Right. And you can see the triple overpass from there, and you could see how these railroad workers who are up there would have seen this thing floating down from the grassy knoll and talk about it. Now, is this car exhaust from a car that's backed up to the picket fence up on the hill? Is this, a big pipe hit or, a big cigarette hit?
Rob Posner tries to say that this puff of smoke was actually motorcycle backfire exhaust type
Well,
of
you
thing.
can say anything.
That's how
we just don't know.
No, I
what it's from.
Listen,
I know.
Posner. I'm just letting you know how he has tried.
It could be anything, but the timing of it, with shots being alleged to come from that area, is suspect.
And the corroboration of
multiple eyewitnesses,
saying the same thing is what gets it for me. But for sure. So I only have a couple more slides here. Once I
and Rick does say, if you remember, Joe, there are steam pipes. There used to be up there on the grassy knoll. You remember? I've seen interviews of people saying that they had to step over them, to get around up there. They're not there anymore, but the giant steam pipes were up there. So it could have been, maybe they release steam every once in a while. But you'd think the railroad workers would know that and not attribute that to being smoke.
Yes, because they would have seen that every day. Right. So they would have obviously known the difference. I mean, listen, these are blue collar guys who don't have a dog in the fight, in my opinion. So we just heard from Mr. Simmons, right, and how his FBI statement here is completely different than what he told Mark Lane. You have Mr. Nolan Potter, no DPD interview either, although interviewed by the FBI on that same time where they interviewed all the triple underpass observers. I actually read this already. Recall seeing a puff of smoke. Then I go to an HSCA administrative folder by Mark Lane, and I think this is from some of his interviews that
transcript.
Transcribed. Well, I know where the third shot came from. This is SM Holland. We heard him say that from behind the picket fence. Is there any doubt? No, there's no doubt in my mind. We saw that. Now we go to Richard Dodd. No DPD statement or a Warren Commission interview.
Oh, Dick Dodd.
Because that would have been Dick Dodd. Yeah, that would have been, problematic. Dick Dodd was also at the overpass. Anything which you might indicate to where you were, to where the shots came from. Dodd, well, all three seem soon about the same thing, and the shot and the smoke came from behind the hedge on the north side of the plaza, and a motorcycle policeman dropped the motorcycle in the street with his gun in his hand and ran up the embankment to the hedge. And then I went north to look around the corner, like a lot of the workers did, right? They ran to the knoll as well, like a lot of people, to see if there was anyone behind the hedge, and met a special agent of the something railroad, Gady, railroad, I don't know. And he went down there, and I walked along with him to see if there was any tracks there, which there were tracks and cigarette butts, which of course we have heard a lot about, the land where someone had been standing on a bumper. I believe he means a car bumper. like mud on the hood of a car, which is interesting. Again, someone completely ignored, but was there, Mr. Dick Dodd.
Dirty Dick Dodd.
Posner's claim, we're going to go back to this article by Stuart
Gallinor.
Rob. Thank you. Posner claim. James Simmons, who we heard from last, said to the FBI he thought the shots came from the book depository and he saw exhaust flames from the embankment. We just read that, right? Evidence. This is indeed what two FBI agents claim Simmons said to them in March of 1964. The FBI report, however, is a fabrication. One of Posner's main flaws, which he shares with Warren Commission, is his unquestioning reliance on hearsay reports of FBI agents. Many witnesses contradicted what was in their FBI reports, and Simmons was one of them, as we just saw. Simmons told Mark Lane in a filmed interview, we just went through that, I'm not going to repeat it. Next Posner claim, Austin Miller thought the smoke he saw was steam, like you just mentioned, right? There was a steam pipe among the wooden fence near the edge of the triple underpass. If there was smoke, it was most likely that Austin Miller was right, and it came from the steam pipe. Evidence. Not quite. Posner does not accurately represent what Austin Miller said in a sworn statement to the DPD on November 22nd. Austin Miller, and we did go over this, said, I saw something which I thought was smoke or steam coming from a group of trees north of Elm Street off the railroad tracks. So you can see, because he said steam, they are now kind of misrepresenting this, right? Posner is. When he was questioned 4.5 months later by the commission, that would be by Counselor David Beelan, he was not asked one question about the smoke or steam he observed. Interesting. The steam pipe that Posner refers to can be seen in the film Rush to Judgment. It is over 100 feet away from the point of the knoll where smoke was observed by 7 witnesses. No one reported smoke or steam at the location of the steam pipe. If a steam pipe had been the cause of the smoke at the site, the steam pipe of the grassy knoll, one would expect the steam or smoke to have been seen again. No such sightings occurred. Posner has a tendency to misrepresent what the witnesses said. He criticizes another author for listing Victoria Adams as a witness who picked the knoll as the origins of the shot, which he actually described the shots as coming from the vicinity of the book depository. So this is what they do, right? The lone nutters, they pick and choose. We go to Clement Johnson here, who was another railroad worker. God, these fucking W's, I hate them. Saw whites, they're like
your kryptonite.
Saw white smoke, but told the FBI it came from a motorcycle abandoned near the spot by a Dallas policeman. Case closed. Page 256. I'm sorry. The hiccups. That was Posner's claim. Evidence. The railroad workers saw a puff of smoke right after they heard the shot. There was no motorcycle on the knoll at that time, as clearly shown in photographs taken by witness Wilma Bond after the assassination. Life magazine, November 24th, 1967. Posner's presentation of the evidence of the assassination is deceptive and contrived. He is so confident of his arguments, so disdainful of the questions that have been raised, that he is disposed to make any argument, no matter how fatuous or fabricated. That no, it doesn't read like that. It's misspelled. It's not facetious. It probably is, but facetious. If that's how it's spelled, that's on me. That alone not kill Kennedy. To say otherwise, in the light of overwhelming evidence, he tells us, in case closed, it is to absolve a man with blood on his hands and to mock the president. In his preface, Posner explains why the public has been particularly receptive to conspiracy theories. And one reason he gives is that the public receptivity to the theories is also fed by suspicions that politicians lie and cover up misdeeds. So essentially calling out Posner, Mr. Stuart Gallagher's book, Cover Up, documents the disturbing measures taken by our government to cover up a conspiracy. So he's kind of focusing on that. And I'm ending with an HSCA evaluation of all these witnesses. Conclusion: those witnesses who saw smoke on the knoll could conceivably have been correct. Gunfire, even smokeless ammunition, does cause smoke visible to the eye. This smoke, if the testimony is correct, would have come from the area of the grassy knoll. So even the HSCA is admitting that. And yeah, I think the evidence is overwhelming that there was smoke coming from the knoll. The question is, was Mr. Ed Hoffman there on the adjoining Stemmons Freeway to see it or not? Or did he concoct it later?
Correct.
That is the question. And before I get your random thoughts, your last thoughts on this, Rob, I have one thing I want to play.
Yes.
Something that concerns me a little bit, to be honest. And this is from a conference in 1994 at Dealey Plaza. Let me see. 4907. This is concerning to me, Rob, and I'm gonna tell you why after I play it, and then hopefully I'll make it to my hockey game.
I went into the lobby of the FBI and I met this woman there, and I gave my name, Ed Hoffman, and they said, "Oh, fine." So she called the man that was supposed to come down to talk to me, the agent from the FBI, and I noticed the lobby had pictures all throughout the lobby, and I was looking at these pictures, and I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk with them. I feel that it's very dangerous, and I don't want the CIA to know. There were pictures of the CIA all over the lobby, and I said I did not want to talk to the CIA. I wanted to talk to the FBI. And she told me.
How would he know? Say he's in a government building in Dallas. Which pictures were FBI or CIA? And why, under J. Edgar Hoover, would he feel more comfortable talking to the FBI? Let me continue because it gets a little worse.
Told me not to worry, that we would be talking to the FBI, so I sat down more relieved at that time. And the FBI agent came out to meet me, and I opened something that was in my pocket. Oh, excuse me. The FBI showed me their badge. And I felt more relieved at that time because I was deaf and I really didn't know, I've heard all these stories about the CIA and I really didn't want to be involved with them at that time. So the FBI, I was very accepting of that. So after I had seen his badge, we went into his office and sat down.
You heard stories of the CIA in 1967?
Right.
Interesting.
They're very evil.
And we established the preliminaries with my name and everything, and they wanted to know what I saw. So I wrote down and illustrated everything I could on a piece of paper. And, his expressions were changing as I was doing this, and he looked very concerned. And then I looked over, and there was a big mirror all along the wall. I noticed that for the first time. The FBI said, "Don't worry, that's nothing."
Of course, that would be like a mirror in an interrogation room, right? Where you have the spooks on the other side of it, right?
Right.
that we've seen in the movies.
And the FBI agent decided that I shouldn't say much more. He took my paper that I had written down my story and illustrated what happened and about the fence and the gunman, and he said for me not to say much more. And he was offering me money. And I was very shocked by that. I was extremely shocked by that. And
For me?
they wanted to know how much I wanted, and I told them no thank you. They wanted to give me money to keep me quiet. And I said, I don't want that money. I don't know what that's for. That means what are you planning to do with this story? It's not necessary to give me money. I'm a witness, and that's all I want. It's my truth. I can't tell you a lie. I mean, here I am. I'm ready to give you the story, and this is the truth. And I have to continue in the truth. I cannot accept money, bribery, to tell a lie. I cannot do that. I'm going to stand sure, and I'm going to continue with my truth. And he said, okay. But he started by saying this. He told me to shut up, and he looked at me very angrily when he said this. And I said, okay, fine. And I left his office. You know, first he was very friendly, and then he got angry because I wouldn't accept his bribe money. And so I left at that time. And as time went on, I went back home. And I thought maybe my father wouldn't know. So I went into the house, and my uncle, not my father, excuse me, my father, had a very strange expression on his face as I walked up to him. And I walked over to my father. He said, did you go see the FBI? And I could not lie. I mean, I just could not lie to my father. My father was a very strict man. You know, I grew up in a very strict home, and that was...
How did his dad know he went to go speak to the FBI?
how I'd been raised. So I confessed. I said, yes, I did. I went to the FBI, and as gravely as he could, he was looking at me, and he said, you know best. They're going to kill you. You know they're going to kill you someday. I don't know when, I don't know how, but this is going to be dangerous for the family, and your uncle is very worried. You know, we'd really like you to be able to stay with our family. We don't want you to have to do anything strange. I said, I know, but I have wiped my slate clean. I feel much better. I've made myself feel better. Now I can focus on my family. This has made me very happy. It's been a pleasure for me to be able to express that. I said, I cannot continue with sleepless nights. I needed to be able to let it out.
All right.
Whew. He's making me tired just watching him.
Yeah. And that, I believe, is his daughter translating.
Yeah.
Narrating, I guess, is the right word. So, yeah, man, listen, I came into this week when you told me the topic thinking Ed Hoffman was an extremely reliable witness. Again, I first saw him when I viewed The Men Who Killed Kennedy, and I was like, why would this deaf mute lie? Then I found out there are no day of affidavits. He did go to the FBI in 1967. He did say some things that corroborates with, some railroad workers. Not sure how much of that information is out. As usual,
It was in the Warren report, most of it.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And
Yeah,
in Russ's judgment.
Yeah, true. As always, I think there is some truth and some exaggeration as time went on.
Look, a lot of people over the years have wanted to insert themselves into this story for whatever reasons. There's a variety of reasons, whether it be fame, fortune, recognition, attention, money, what have you. I don't think money was a contributing factor with Hoffman. Possibly attention. You know, I mean, you got to understand how rough of a life this guy must have had growing up, and to be in his mid 20s, 27 when this happened. You know, I'm sure he did get a cracked molar that day. I'm sure he did go to the dentist that day. So there is an opportunity for him to have seen this. And he crafted this narrative for attention for whatever reason. And, you know, I'm not making a claim that, you know, Ed Hoffman is a total liar. But we've seen this before with various people for whatever reason. You know, it could be mental illness for all we know. Insert themselves into the narrative of the Kennedy assassination.
Right. And whether it's the things I had were stolen, you know, I was intimidated, etc. You know, there are.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm sure this guy had a rough life, man. Especially back then, being deaf mute and you know, making it in life, but he seemed to have a good job and a wife and a kid, a family that cared about him, you know, and you know, it's just hard to gauge,
It is.
you know, the why of why somebody would do this. But you know, when you compare and contrast it with what everybody else saw and what he had the opportunity to read about, because later on in life, Ed Hoffman was a voracious JFK researcher, if you will. He had read a lot of stuff in the 80s and 90s, you know, when it came to all this stuff.
Right.
And he admitted it, you know, he admitted it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he became kind of like James Tague, you know, somebody that was there, somebody who could have a narrative, and somebody who was consumed by this whole thing.
Right. By this monumental event that changed world history.
Yeah. You know, and for whatever reason, Ed Hoffman decided to insert himself into this story. And, you know, there was a picture that I was trying to find, Joe, of a DPD officer, and I've seen it before, that had ran over to the triple overpass and is standing up on the concrete pediment up there. And it was a motorcycle officer because he has a helmet on, and he's standing up on the concrete pediment with all kinds of people around him. And it's at the very end of the picket fence line up near the triple overpass, kind of up in the corner there where the overpass meets the fence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
And he's standing up there, and it's a pretty famous photo. I couldn't find it, but I did find this.
Yeah. I mean, we know there was a cop too on top of the overpass.
There was two cops up there.
Yeah,
but
everyone says so.
But this guy was dressed like a motorcycle cop. He had the helmet on. So he had obviously ran up the grassy knoll to the area where he thought shots were coming from. Right. And this is a picture I found of the steam pipe and the view behind the grassy knoll fence shortly after the assassination. And you see
steam pipe at the bottom of the picture.
Right. So if you're looking at this, you're looking directly towards the school book depository. Behind that big tree is a school book depository. To your right would be the triple overpass. And we're looking down the fence line.
Right. And where the fence meets is that corner.
Right. And the fence does continue to the left. You know, it kind of creates the, you know, there's 2 points. There's two fence lines that meet there in the corner, right? In the parking lot. And this is the steam pipe that you had to climb over to get to the triple overpass. And, you know, I did find this, but it doesn't very clearly show that the DPD cop running to that corner. I've seen clearer images. There is a cop way down in the corner, but he hasn't climbed up on the concrete yet. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is a split image. I thought this was interesting. So you see the image on the left, and then on the right is a close-up
Is that dark complected man putting the radio in his back pocket? On the
Possibly.
left?
Possibly.
Looks like it. Okay.
I mean, this is pre the Newmans hitting the ground. Right?
Wow.
And
Yeah,
they're
yeah. You could see them on the pole, on the
right.
middle right.
This is
Wow.
before dark complected man has sat down. He's still on the street, right? Where he was standing with his fist raised. The Newmans have not hit the ground yet. This is like right after the shots. You see the motherfucker running up the stairs there, right? Up the grassy knoll. As soon as the shots rang out, them guys, there was 3 guys on them stairs. They turned around and started running up there. Now, what's interesting is on the right side of this image is a zoomed in shot of the corner of the concrete abutment coming from like where Zapruder was standing, part of the monument, that
Yeah.
white concrete wall.
Mhm.
And there's an area in between the picket fence and the white concrete wall where the stairs lead up, from the street up the grassy knoll, right? Where Emmett Hudson and his buddies were standing and where this guy is running up. Now, from the Gordon Arnold perspective, the zoomed in image, and I didn't have this at the time we did the Gordon Arnold show, would appear you could kind of see a raised hand to a face with, indicating possibly somebody holding a camera. And this guy is kind of where Gordon Arnold would have been, right? So I just thought that was interesting that they pulled this image on the right and zoomed in from the image on the left, which is almost right after the shots. But you remember Gordon Arnold said that he hit the ground immediately. So maybe he got back up pretty soon after the shots. I don't know, but I find it interesting this image here.
Yeah, definitely.
You see all the people running, following the cop down to the corner of the triple overpass and the fence line. And then that photo that I was talking about that I couldn't find of the guy standing up there would be taken after that with all the people around him. But you see all the people running in that direction. You see dark complected man looking in that direction.
Yeah.
No puff of smoke to speak of in this picture, but it's an interesting image. But maybe Joe, that puff of smoke that everybody said they saw, there was this guy in Dealey Plaza too that day. Just saying. Just saying. And folks,
we solved it.
We just solved the mystery.
Yeah. Before we give our final thoughts, I have a couple starred comments. DW, who recently became a spook during this episode, I've always thought Hoffman was credible. Me too, sir. I believe he was dismissed as a witness by the DPD because of his disabilities. And you know what? I made a comment to Rob offline when he told me this topic. I was like, yeah, didn't Hoffman go to DPD headquarters and say he waited, but there was no translator, so that's why he didn't have a day of affidavit. Not sure that's true. Sally said, I saw it when I was 8 in 1988. She's talking about Men Who Killed Kennedy. And that's how we got into the JFK assassination as well. Me too. Mr. Hoffman telling the truth. Timothy Ryan thinks. Rick Franz says, looks too far away. Talking about his position in Stemmons Freeway to observe what he did.
Yeah, and again, sometimes your other senses make up for the ones you're lacking, but it was pretty damn far away, and I don't know exactly how far.
Yeah,
I don't know if they ever measured it. I'm sure somebody did.
Yeah,
but it was a lot.
Yeah, Timothy Ryan says, how far away? 150, 200 yards. 200 yards would be 2 football fields. Significant amount.
To see details, yeah.
Like that, right? Only 2 weapons I could think of could disassemble that quickly. They're talking about the claim that the railroad worker disassembled it behind the electric box and then put it in the bag, right? And that would be a Sten gun and an AR 7.223 survival rifle. I don't have enough knowledge to comment on that. But. And yes, Hoffman said as we displayed that the FBI offered him money cash to keep quiet, which again I find hard to believe. Didn't Senator Yarborough say he saw smoke or smelled smoke? I believe he said he saw someone hit the ground, as we went over in the Gordon Arnold episode. I don't know. He might have said he smelled smoke
or smelled gunpowder.
Yeah, I think he did do that.
It was him or his wife, one of the two, I think, said he smelled gunpowder.
Yeah, good call, Jack. Because that's interesting. Because of course, if he's a few cars back, and whatever the wind is blowing, he would have smelled that if there was a shot from the knoll. I really don't think Hoffman is making this up, bro. And I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying
Maybe he got some details wrong.
Not everything lines up. Yes. And yeah. And I believe there was a shot from the knoll, like 100%. So but here on the
and I believe that
podcast,
the FBI may have dismissed his story. I don't think they offered him $500 to shut up about it. They were probably very dismissive of his story because it just simply does not remotely match the narrative at all that they were trying to put forth.
Right. I agree. Cammy, that pipe steam would have to have a vent on it to emit steam.
Yeah, and I'm sure there were pressure relief valves somewhere along that steam pipe at some points, but I just don't know where they would have been located, whether it would have been on the pipe itself or from a vent below ground. I don't know.
And the railroad workers would have known the difference between that.
Yeah.
Right, as we discussed.
And Joe.
Yes. We did. Yes.
Thank you, Gary Peters. Thanks for being you. Well, you're welcome. We are us. And thanks you for being you. And thank you for the super chat, man. It is greatly appreciated.
Yes.
You rock.
Definitely.
Gary Peters.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. And last one. Yeah. But the puff of smoke photo from Sally, the Newmans are on the ground. Isn't the timing off?
I may have to pull that up again and let's look real quick.
Yeah, let's do it quickly.
Let me find that picture again and upload it in here. Here we go. Yeah. No, they're not. They are on the sidewalk. You see a little kid.
Oh, the little kid right there on right on the edge of the street.
Yep. That's the Newmans. They are not on the ground yet.
Huh. So and they were on the ground for a minute or two.
They were on the ground for 10 minutes after the shots.
Yeah.
5 minutes after the shots, they were on the ground. 10 minutes after that. It seems like. But yeah. To wrap this up, Joe, with the Ed Hoffman story, I just don't know how much of it to believe. Like you said, I believe there's a kernel of truth in here somewhere. What that exactly is, I don't know. And again, we have heard stories of other seemingly credible people who have tried to insert their story into the narrative, or a story concerning them into the narrative. I mean, look no further than Gene Hill, Julia Mercer. They all have these stories that nobody else say they saw that have somehow changed over time, that weren't in their initial DPD or sheriff's office affidavits, that these details have added over time. Now, if we had a sheriff's report or a DPD report from Ed Hoffman on the day of the assassination, this might be a different story.
Yeah, it would make me feel better.
But to wait 3 years because your daddy, when you're 27, tells you to keep your mouth shut because somebody's going to shoot you, and you say, okay, daddy, and you don't say anything for 3 years.
When no witnesses were being shot yet.
So you wait until after the Warren Commission is done, after Oswald is dead, after they seemingly put this thing to bed, and 3 years later, because of your sleepless nights and nightmares, you decide to go to the FBI to tell your story, and they dismiss you and offer you money and tell you to shut up, and you get out. And then, when interest is renewed in this case, all of a sudden he comes out of the woodwork again. And again, I don't think it was for money or fame or anything like that. I think it was more of an attention thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know that 100%, but that's just my impression. Like with Judith Baker, I think it's a mentally ill thing with her, and attention and money. But of course, everybody's different. Everybody has different intentions or reasons for doing things that they do. People are strange, as the Doors said.
Yes. Great song. Yeah. And like Tim Ryan says, who the fuck knows? And yeah, and just because, to quote our book review, Ed Hoffman's definitely leans on the side of conspiracy, but just because he leans on the side of conspiracy, and from what I believe was a shot from behind the grassy knoll, the picket fence, doesn't necessarily mean I have to believe him or that I don't believe that there was a shot. I don't know. I wasn't there. We weren't there. It's a strange story. It came out after. It changed. Offering money from the FBI, which I've never heard before. I don't know the reason or anything, motivations of why he came out then or later or later in life. I don't know, but we let the audience think and decide for themselves on this show, and we try to
we give you all sides and let you try to figure it out, because we're in the same boat. I don't know where to land on this guy. And like James says, it's either the one thing, which is the ultimate truth, like this guy's legit and he's telling the truth, or it's the other, which means he's lying. It's one or the other. He's either misrepresenting or misremembering some, facts, what he saw, or he's misinterpreting what he saw, or it's hard to say. I don't think Ed Hoffman was a malicious liar.
No.
If that makes sense, Joe.
Yes.
I don't think he was telling this story to intentionally mislead other people or anything like that. But you gotta understand.
I think he was probably there, parked on the side of the freeway, and saw some stuff that maybe he wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah, maybe he thought he saw these things, and that's what his brain interpreted. The rest of the story is up for debate.
Right.
The whole FBI thing, the whole reason he didn't say anything intentionally.
Right. You could have gone to the DPD, even not the day of. You could have gotten a translator sometime before 1967 to express your concerns. Before that, opto economist, hey, what's up, bud? Said tended to trust Hoffman, and I don't not trust him. I'm just saying there are some things in his story that
there are problems there.
There are problematic to us
And with any author, even Walt Brown or Jim DiEugenio or whatever other esteemed author you want to throw up there, they get things wrong. They have wrong opinions. They have wrong basic instincts.
You can't get everything right in this game, man. We certainly
No.
don't.
I mean, this case would have been solved many years ago if only somebody had gotten it right and was able to convince everybody that they did get it right. But sadly, Walt Brown has not, DiEugenio is not, Mark Lane is not, and I can sit here and list thousands of authors who have not yet satisfied everybody on the conspiracy side of things as to what conspiracy we can all buy into and believe with absolute 100% proof.
Right. But definitely props to Mark Lane for getting these interviews in 1966 of these railroad workers. Definitely helpful and kind of displays how some of them were.
Yeah, Tiny. Maybe they were trying to give him $500 for his hot tip, for his hot crime tip, and he misinterpreted it as them trying to pay him off to shut up. Anything is possible, but maybe not that.
Right.
But that made me LOL. So yes, thank you.
So yeah, man, that is all I have. I know I said, let's try to keep this to an hour and a half because I have a hockey game in 34 minutes and I will be late for it, being it's 30 minutes away. But podcast comes first. I love you all. I appreciate everyone joining us for this show. Hope you are less confused than you were at the beginning about Ed Hoffman, but probably you're not.
Yeah, like us, we're more confused.
Yes. Yes, I will say my percentage of confidence of him went down a little during the process of my research this week. Not saying he's wrong, just saying the confidence level went down. I'm not going to put a percentage on it. But
yep. All right, we're going to let Joe get to his hockey game. We're going to call Dino in.
Yeah. Ruby.
Folks, if you want the hottest Cook City hot sauce, link in the description. Use our code GUNMAN to save 20% off of your entire order. And of course, when you're eating the hottest, you need to be drinking the coldest. Link in the description to save 10% off your coldest cup. You can keep stuff cold for 36 freaking hours straight. Your ice cream in this
I gotta
bitch.
order that. I gotta order it.
It could be used for him or against him in this strange case. Good night.
Thanks for joining us. It's been a banger. It always is. You folks make it awesome. Thank you for the interaction tonight. Fantabulous. And if you like this video, smash that fucking like button and share this bit.
Yep.
We're like 11 people away from being 2,200 subscribers, Joe.
I know. Yes, please
so maybe
subscribe.
We can crack that in the next week.
We will. Thank you, everyone.
Please subscribe, yes.
If not, Ruby is going to come and attack you.
She will come and bite your leg off.
She is very intimidating, as you can see.
She will make a very small hole in your leg and then lick it.
Guys,
that's it for us.
Have a good weekend.
See you at the book review before next week.